Let me start off by saying I'm sorry because you have way too much coming at you over the next 72 hours. Honestly, it's the most chaotic time I've ever seen in Raid. Now, I didn't choose it, but we're all going to have to get through it together. It started because of the Alice's Adventure event that launched today. We have 5 new legendary champions and a new epic that have been introduced to the game. In addition, the event dungeon is back, which means pinpoint gear. Yay. And this time, the big bad boss is the Queen of Hearts. We also have the Alice Chase, which means we're all going to be getting a new free legendary login champion. That's definitely going to have an impact on the arena meta. And then we also have changes to the market. As if we haven't been asking for this for 6 years, they just folded it into the Alice's Adventure event as if nobody would notice. And then we have free event relics that we can acquire. We're definitely going to have to talk about that. And finally, we have the Mad Hatter's Fusion event that actually launched today. It's currently live. To top it all off, in 2 days' time, the 2025 Hell Hades free-to-play challenge starts. So all of this is going to impact all of that and vice versa. So a lot of us are not only going to have to synthesize all of this information, we're going to have to apply it to our main accounts, and then we're also going to have to figure out how it applies to our challenge accounts in just a couple of days. Now, there's no way for me to do all of this in one video. I'm not even going to try. That would be way too long and too complicated. So I'm going to break it up into bite-sized pieces. I'll probably have several videos coming at you over the next few days. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so you don't miss out on any of this important information. But for this video, I'm going to take the most time-critical piece of information. We're going to start there, and that is the Mad Hatter's Fusion event. So I'm going to give you a quick review of the champions involved, the Mad Hatter and the Fusion Epic, and then I'm going to present you with my no-fail fusion plan. So those of you who are pursuing this fusion have the best chance of success. Like I said, it's a lot, but we're going to do it in pieces, and hopefully we'll do it well enough that at the end of it all, our heads won't be spinning. Hopefully. I am Colred. This is Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends and Alice in Wonderland. Let's get started. One of the nice aspects of a classic fusion or a hybrid fusion like this event is that you have an opportunity to pick up a consolation prize. So if you don't have the resources or inclination to go for the legendary fusion champion, you can sometimes just pick up an epic that might add some value to your roster. This is Dawncaller Sabatha. She is a void support from the Knights Revenant. If we look at her stats, she's relatively sturdy with 17,500 HP and 1,300 defense. So I like that. She should be able to perform her role as reviver on your team relatively well. She is a little bit slow, not really, but compared to the speed creep we've kind of seen over the last few years, this feels slower than maybe it would have a year or two ago. Still not a bad speed. And then she has a little bit of resistance as well, which is always good on a reviver. Her A1 attacks one enemy, heals the ally with the lowest HP by 10% of this champion's max HP. Pretty sure Ostrox has the same A1 or a similar one. It's nice to synergize healing with reviving. So this is a pretty solid A1. Her damage is based on attack. She won't hit hard at all. That's not going to be a thing that happens. Her A2 places a large increased defense buff and a large increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Now, this is a weird skill because these are 2 very important buffs, but I feel like we get these buffs from a lot of sources that often have additional effects that are more valuable. This isn't even a hit. There's no attack here. There's no turn meter fill or increased speed buff or debuffs on the enemy, no HP burns, nothing. And as a result, this feels a little underwhelming to me. Don't get me wrong, it's usable. I just wish there was one more effect here to really round out this skill. Now, the A3 Shimmer of Life revives an ally with 25% HP and 100% turn meter. Also places a block damage buff on that ally for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. Now, this is a very good single target revive. 100% turn meter is absolutely fantastic. The revive champion is going to go very shortly after getting revived. This is why I think we have the block damage buff for 2 turns, because that ally is going to go so fast that if it was only a 1-turn block damage, they would just run through that buff and be at risk of dying again with only 25% HP. So this is a nice, solid single target revive, one of the better ones in the game. Here we have a passive that synergizes with that revive. Whenever this champion revives an ally, decreases the cooldown of one of this champion's skills by 1 turn. So if you turn off the A2, and you're just using the A3, you're guaranteed to reduce the cooldown here, and this basically becomes a 3-turn revive, right? So that's awesome. This is a very good revive. And then we have an aura that increases ally HP in all battles by 25%. Pretty good, versatile, standard sort of aura from a Void Epic, but definitely synergizes with her role as healer and reviver. Now, if you are starting a free-to-play Hell Hades challenge account in just a couple of days, this is a champion that you might be able to pick up. You're going to have about 12 days or so to pursue her. I'm going to compare her to Jamarsa because you can also get Jamarsa in just a few days on a new account. And if I were to compare the two, I think Jamarsa is the better champion. She's got an AoE revive, which is certainly more usable. I think she's a slightly better healer as well. That doesn't mean Sabatha's bad. I think she's very good. Players are going to find uses for her. And at the very least, if you pick her up, you can use her as your reviver in the Knights Revenant faction crypts. And that's going to allow you to maybe push past the first boss, get some more stars, get some more rewards, and some forged materials. So definitely one to consider if you can't go after the main fusion. Speaking of the main fusion, let's go take a look at him. He's in the same faction. And this is the Mad Hatter. This is the Mad Hatter. So another gritting clown-like villain. We just had Loki. Kind of looks a little bit like some versions of the Joker from Batman, but a pretty cool aesthetic. Checking out his stats, fairly sturdy. Again, a support champion. Here, in this case, he is Force Affinity, but 23,000 HP and almost 1,200 defense. So yeah, you shouldn't have any trouble keeping this guy alive. I like the speed here of 108. Not super fast, but definitely still on the fast side. A little bit of resistance and accuracy in his kit as well. His A1 hits twice. Each hit has a 50% chance when booked of stealing one random buff. So you can steal up to 2 buffs. Each hit also has a 100% chance of applying a debuff spread effect, taking one random debuff from the target and placing it on all enemies that are under a hex debuff. Now, you may ask yourself, why does a skill that hits twice have to have a 100% chance of working? Remember, this guy is Force Affinity, which means he can weak hit into Spirit Affinity targets. So if you have a double hitter and each hit works 100% of the time, then if one of them weak hits and the other doesn't, you still have that chance of applying the effect. Remember, this effect does take accuracy. The A2 attacks all enemies, has a 100% chance when booked of placing a hex and a weaken debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. And then it's an ally attack with the ally who has the highest crit damage. And that ally will deal more damage of 10% for each debuff on the target. So you're already placing 2 debuffs. You're going to be guaranteed 20% increase in damage. But you could actually get this as high as 100% increase in damage because you can get 10 debuffs on an enemy. I think this is a very powerful skill. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. It does a lot. And if you don't yet have your AoE Hex champion for Hydra, this is going to give you an opportunity to pick one up if you do this fusion. And he adds that weaken. Sometimes we get all the champions that we need into a Hydra team, and we neglect the damage debuffs and buffs. So a weaken, a drop defense, an increase attack, those things are sometimes forgotten or they can't fit into the team. So the fact that he brings both the Hex and the weaken is actually really nice. And again, then this is an attack with an ally. You could even make that ally a champion that has an AoE A1, maybe an AoE A1 that has a debuff on it, or just hits really hard. So this is a very cool skill. I like this skill a lot. And I think this is the reason to go after this champion. Now, the A3 is another reason potentially to go after this champion. I don't know how well it synergizes with the rest of everything, but this increases the duration of all buffs on allies by 1 turn and decreases the duration of all debuffs on all allies by 1 turn, and then gives you turn meter fill. I love it, a little bit of turn meter fill in a kit, so this is always a useful ability, and a buff extension can work really well with champions like Wixwell. In fact, you need champions like this for a Wixwell clan boss team. So if you have Wixwell, but you don't have your buff extenders, you can go after Mad Hatter. Plus, he might even have a chance to like remove stuns or cleanse slows or poisons or things like that that you might pick up from the clan boss or other boss fights. Not a huge cleanse, it's really just a decreased duration by 1 turn, but sometimes you only get a 1-turn debuff. He has a passive where every 10 turns taken by allies heals all allies by 20% of their max HP. This is a pretty cool passive. It's not as strong as like a Syl of the Drake's passive, right? She heals everybody, I think, by 10 or 12% every single turn. But if you are on a 5-champion dungeon team, right? That means everybody goes twice, and then everybody gets healed by 20% of their max HP at the same time. That's pretty cool. Plus, every 6 turn taken by enemies, you place a True Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. I don't know where this is going to apply. The only important area I could think of was actually the Chimera, right? Because I think it's the Ram form that is susceptible to True Fears, and this is just going to be placed every 6 turns. So you're pretty much guaranteed to get it on the Ram form when you need it. So that might be cool, but otherwise, I guess PvP, but probably not. Like, I don't know who's going to use this True Fear for anything. So I do like the heal. It's a nice little addition to his kit. He feels really versatile, like he'll have a lot of different uses. I don't think he's a specialist of any sort. I think he's an all-around support. That might be really helpful if this is like one of your first fusions. He might add a lot of value to your account. Otherwise, you're going to have to find a specific use for him. Either you need that hex, or maybe you need that buff extension, or you just like his look and you want to go for him for that reason. Okay, so if you do like the Mad Hatter and decide to pursue him, I am now going to give you my no-fail fusion plan for this fusion event calendar. And as you can see, there are 450 total fragments. Remember, you need 100 fragments for each of the epic champions here, and then you're going to fuse those 4 epics into the Mad Hatter. So there are 50 bonus fragments, and you can think of them as coming from anywhere, really. But you'll notice that there are 50 fragments in this summon rush. We're going to talk more about this summon rush in just a minute. So let's take a look at the normal tournaments here. We have the Fire Knight tournament, the Ice Golem tournament, the Dragon tournament, and the Spider tournament. We always want to line up these tournaments with Dungeon Divers events if we can. So right now, today is Wednesday, but you shouldn't be doing any Fire Knight tournament stuff because that Dungeon Divers event hasn't started yet. So when the Dungeon Divers event starts, you want to put your 2,000 energy here if you're doing stage 20. If you're doing some other stages, it may take a little bit more energy. But put all of that in starting when the Dungeon Divers event starts, and then you can probably dump all of, well, you could probably decide what you want to do with the Spider event. So here, you can either put it all into the Dungeon Divers event 1, or you can hold off and put it into Dungeon Divers event 2. But either way, the Fire Knight is going into the 5K that the Dungeon Divers event takes. So this is basically free energy. And again, if you put this either into the first event, or you put it into the second event, you're fine. So you can put 2K here, or you can put 2K on this side, but do not be doing Spider Tournament in this window. You don't really want to do that. And then we also have the Ice Golem Tournament that can be split between the the second event or the third event. So you can put it in here, or you can put it in here. But again, don't be spending energy in this window. So again, you can put 2K here, or you can put 2K here. You can even split it up. It depends how you want to do it. But remember that this event takes 5,000 energy, and then this event will also take 5,000 energy if you are farming stage 20 dungeons. Finally, the Dragon Tournament, the 2K, is all going to go into the event number 3. So as a result, all 4 of these should be free events. They shouldn't take any extra energy. So you're basically looking at a minimum of 15,000 energy if you're doing all of the Dungeon Divers events. And then you might put some energy into the champion training tournaments or the champion training event here if you want. So it's going to be a minimum of 15,000 energy up to probably somewhere in the vicinity of like 18 or 19 this time around. Because when you can embed 100% of your dungeon tournaments energy into the Dungeon Divers, that's the most efficient type of fusion that we typically see. The classic arena takedowns should be easy. Just make sure that you are active every day using all of your natural refills. You shouldn't have to buy refills if you've been planning carefully and you're active in arena. Even if you're in silver arena, just be active, use up all of your arena tokens, and make sure you're winning as high a rate as you can. If your win rate is pretty low, you may need to buy some refills or use some refills that you get from like Centranos or other places. Then we have the 3 artifact enhancement events. These are all 20 million silver each. Remember, you don't need to have the 60 million silver today. You're probably going to pick up something like 30 or 40 million silver during the course of all of these tournaments. So, if you have 15 or 20 million silver today, you should be comfortable. If you have 30 or 40, you're all set. If you have 5, you're going to have to stretch. You're going to have to do some gear cleansing or spend some extra silver some extra energy in the Spider Tournament to get more silver. Spider Tournament is generally the best place to get that silver. So if you wanted to, say, drop 2,000 spider energy into the first dungeon divers and do the same thing with the second dungeon divers, then you would be getting a lot of extra silver, and that might help you out with these artifact enhancement events. So those are pretty straightforward. You either have the silver or you don't. Now, as far as the champion training events and tournaments are concerned, you can do some of that with energy in campaign. You can do the rest of it with the tavern stuff. You can do all of the leveling up in the tavern. Remember that as you collect these Dawncaller Sabathas, you want to do a couple of things with them. First of all, don't summon them from their fragments until you have a champion chase. Like if you get one, well, you can't. You're going to want to summon them during the champion chase. If you can, you're going to get some free points there. You should be able to, looks like one, you might be able to get, I don't know if there's going to be overlap. You might be able to get 2 Dawncaller Sabathas in here. Maybe even the 25 fragments that you get from the champion chase will then be, added to increase your total and allow you to get more rewards. But you're going to want to fuse or summon at least one of your Dawncaller Sabathas during this champion chase to get some free points there. But then you're going to want to level up those Dawncaller Sabathas during a champion training event. So if you get one early, you can put it into this one. If you get one late, you can put it into this one. And then make sure that you level them up to 50 and 5-star Ascended. Champion training events are always a bit of a pain, but if you've saved your brews, that makes it a lot faster and easier to complete. Other than all of those events, we have the champion chase. There will be a 2x shard event this weekend. We don't know what kind of shard it's going to be. They have been messing with the schedule recently. They had an all shard event not that long ago, and then they've been changing the rotation. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was sacreds, because they like to do that kind of stuff, and they've been draining sacreds from the community recently, and that's how they get people to spend money. So we might see sacreds, but it could also be ancients or voids. We don't know. But that means during this summon rush and during this summon rush, we don't have 2x events, but we probably will have progressive Alice champion events, right? So you can get the Knave of Hearts, the Queen of Hearts, and the Mad Hatter from shard events. And so it's likely that they're going to do that during both of these summon rushes. So you want to watch the news and see what champions are available during these 2 summon rushes. Now, this summon rush might be the more appealing one to actually pursue, because not only is it going to give you 50 fragments, but if you're chasing a progressive, this gives you an opportunity to spend more shards, right? If you want to do the minimal amount of shards, I'm not sure which summon rush is going to be better. It may be that the first one is better. It may be that the second one's better. You can watch out on the day, pay close attention. Watch here. This channel will probably be talking about that, or watch your other channels. We'll be talking about which summon rush to pull. We have a little bit of time before we decide, but likely we're going to be talking about a minimum of 5 to 6 sacreds for either one of these events as an absolute minimum to get the 25 fragments that you need. If you pursue the second summon rush, it might be more efficient, but we don't know for sure. In the past, it has been sometimes, but you also don't get a choice to opt out, right? So like if you decide to go for this summon rush and you want to save yourself 50 fragments and you don't do this summon rush, you might say, well, there's another 25 fragments I don't want to do, and so I'm going to skip, this dungeon divers or something. And that's going to allow you to save some resources. But then if the summon rush is really unfriendly, you still have to do the shards if you want to complete the fusion. Now, it's not bad to go for an extra 25 fragments. I'd say, you may as well. You can always convert those into mod pulls in the portal. So 25 additional epic fragments are not a bad thing. So I might just skip this summon rush and do the second one. And then if I want the extra fragments or I want to pull for the progressive, I'll just keep pulling and get the extra fragments and then turn them into, mod chests or whatever. So this looks like a relatively straightforward fusion event. I hope that this breakdown has helped you out and helped you planning. But remember, you always want to keep abreast of the information as it comes out. So watch your events tab, watch your tournaments tab, so you know exactly what times these events start and end, what the rewards are, and where you can maybe double and triple dip and get extra rewards for your resources. Okay, so that is it for me today. Let me know in the comments below. Are you going for the Mad Hatter? Are you going to stop at the consolation prize of the Void Epic here, Dawncaller Sabatha? Or are you just going to absolutely not do any of this because you're saving resources for a better fusion down the line? That is it for me today. Thanks for hanging out. I have been Colred. I will see you in another video soon.